Eamon Khan here for Seconds Out Team GB headquarters with Richie Woodhall. Richie, good to see you. How's life treating you?
Yeah, it's treating me very well, actually. Yeah, it's great up here. Working with some really talented boxers. So everything's good at the moment. Thank you.
A lot of work heading into the Worlds, only a matter of weeks away. What is it that happens in terms of the preparation leading into this stretch of weeks before the Worlds?
Well, we've got a multi-nations training camp coming up shortly, which will be very important in terms of preparation because there'll be a lot of sparring going on. There's a lot of countries coming here. We're going to host it. And like I say, they'll be sparring every day. So that'll be real sort of very important spars and preparation for the teams that are going to, go on to the World Championships. So that's going to be an important couple of weeks, really, to test our boxers against some of the best boxers in the world. So, yeah, we're looking forward to it.
In terms of like marking victories and strategies and things, I maybe akin it to football where football managers will look at a fixture and say this is one we can get something from because it's in the UK, because it's in Liverpool. Is there further expectation to perform and medal?
Well, we hope so. We're on home soil, so that should inspire the boxers. But it's a young team. It's a team that's just finding its feet, really. Both the males and the females boxers. They're young, but they're talented. So they lack a little bit of experience. But like I say, I think Rob and the coaches know all about preparing them. And we're sending them out to tournaments here, there and everywhere to try and get them experience. And so with this multi-nations camp coming up as well, which are going to be, they're basically going to be gym bouts, I should imagine. That's the way we look at it. But yeah, they're going to be good spars. So yeah, it's an important time for the sort of the Olympic cycle because we're only just a year into it. With big things coming up, these World Championships, Commonwealth Games next year. So there's lots of tournaments where they can get the experience. But this, obviously, we're hopeful they're going to perform on home soil because that should inspire them a bit more. But it's a young team, so, we'll just take it as it comes. And like I say, it's more of an experience thing this time round for us. But you never know, there might be a couple in there that really perform well. We're hoping so.
Yeah, who are some of the standouts? I've managed to speak to quite a number of the fighters today. Odell, Callum, Elise, a number of others as well too. Usyk just before yourself, but who stands out to you right now?
Well, you just mentioned a few of them there that I think Odell being a Liverpool lad as well, he'll be inspired by that, and he's performing really well at the moment. And we've had a few injuries in the squad as well here and there, but we're over them now, so it's all systems go. And like I say, some of the female boxers, Elise has got a lot of potential. So has Lucy Kings-Wheatley. She's a very good boxer as well. Charlie, Davison is a former Olympian, so she's got the experience. So yeah, and then we go to the bigger lads, Isaac Oko and Damar Thomas, super heavy. These are really quality boxers, but like I said, lack a little bit of experience. But they're learning all the time and they're training hard. So we're pretty hopeful that some of them, most of them, hopefully they're going to perform. But you just never can tell. We've got to sort of give them as much experience as we can in terms of the preparation. We've sent them out to tournaments. They've done well. But this one's the big one, obviously, World Championships. But we're on home soil. And we're just hopeful that they're going to raise their game.
Specifically when it came to the Olympics recently, the women really kind of flew the flag in terms of kind of medaling. Men obviously tried their best but didn't come back with anything other than what Lewis Richardson was able to achieve. Could you explain as to why the women were a bit more successful than the men this iteration?
Well, we were just very unlucky. We had, 4 or 5, I think, 3-2 splits go against us, which is unheard of, really. 3-2 splits. It's going to go, obviously, it's a very, very close fight. We thought we'd won all 5, and I commentated on them. And I thought, although some of them were close, I thought that we were each contest that we had, those 5 contests that went against us 3-2, I thought there were 3-2s that would have gone our way. I thought our boxers won. Yeah, they were fairly close, but they just went against us. So we were really unlucky to have 5 3-2s go against you. Is unheard of, really, but it happened. Yes, we got a good women's squad. I thought Rose Eccles, was the most unluckiest boxer in the team, the Olympic team last time. I thought she clearly won, and it was 3-2 against. But that's just the way it is. But like I say, both the men's and the women's now are fairly inexperienced. But we're just hoping and praying that they come through. And like I say, you're certainly putting the foundations there and the preparations there for them to perform. But it's going to be up to them at the end of the day. But we've got talent in the women's and the men's squad. Both squads are very, very talented. We're just hoping that they come through.
Lewis obviously transitioned to pros, having medalled. How do you think he'll fare in the pro game?
Yeah, I've spoke to him on many occasions before he actually turned pro, and I've tried to give him some advice because I followed. He's following a similar path to me. I medalled in Olympics, and then I turned pro, and was successful as a professional. So I just tried to steer him in the right direction, not to neglect those amateur skills that he's got. You know, he's got to add to his game and not take away. Don't listen to people who say plant your feet and there you've got it's a different ball game. You've got to trade more on the inside and hold your feet and stand and load of rubbish. You've still got to move. Speed is a main part of his game. Lewis, he's very skillful. If he's holding the centre of the ring, standing nice and tall as a southpaw and making people miss, and he comes back with counters, he's going to be very difficult to beat. But I've said to him that you've got to train very hard as a professional now, as you did as an amateur. He trained really hard for the Olympics and he got his just rewards in getting that Olympic bronze medal. And he was so unlucky. In the semi-final, I thought he'd beat the Mexican, but the Mexican just edged him out in a close contest. But if he carries on training hard, I've said to him, look, whatever you put in, you get out in boxing, whether amateur or pro. You train hard, you get your just rewards. And with his style, like I said, he's got to add to it. And there's no reason why he can't go on and win titles as a pro.
Delicious decided that the pro game wasn't for him. Obviously, he was here. How do you think because it's hard to kind of say if his motivations weren't there in boxing to where he could have gone, but
yeah,
what career could he have had if he did decide to continue?
It's a shame, really. I mean, I'm not trying to play the same old record, but again, desperately unlucky in the contest in Paris. 3-2 split went against him, and then he's decided to turn pro, and then decided it wasn't for him. I tried to talk him round. I tried to say to him, listen, give it another 4 years. He's still young enough to maybe go for another Olympics. He'll have had all that experience of the last cycle. And that's how the Cubans and the Kazakhs seem to operate. They seem to have 2, and some of the Cubans have 3 cycles, and they seem to perform better in that second cycle because they've had so much experience in these amateur tournaments. But our boxers, I really haven't got the patience, and probably, they're offered big money from the pro game, and fair play to him. He turned pro. I don't know what the deal was, but then he's decided it wasn't for him. I just wished he'd have stayed amateur, and maybe he's having second thoughts of that now, and maybe he should have stayed amateur a little bit longer. But a good kid, not that talented, I wouldn't say, not bursting with talent, but he worked really, really hard. Delicious did, and he improved in the 4 years that we had him, or 3 years, whatever it was, in that Olympic cycle. He got better and better. He was very unlucky leading into the Olympic year because he got a bad injury that kept him out for a while, and that sort of stunted his progress, really. And then he had to pick up the pieces then when he got back to full fitness. But then the Olympics came around, and then it was just a very, very close fight, which I thought he won, but he didn't get it. Then he's decided to turn pro, and his career's gone off in another direction, which is a shame because, like I said, I think we could have done something with him in this cycle if he'd have stayed, because he'd have had all that experience. And when them boxers, when they do turn pro, when they've been through an Olympic cycle, and if it doesn't turn out in the pro game, they realise that they should have stayed amateur. They realise that they maybe haven't fulfilled the potential as an amateur, because experience is everything. And sometimes 4 years isn't enough to gain Olympic success. Sometimes you have to stay a little bit longer. Boxers, we're all individuals, and boxers develop in different stages. And sometimes that second cycle, look at Galal Yafai, didn't medal in Rio in 2016, stays on for another Olympic cycle, he wins gold. So Pat McCormack didn't medal in Rio, stays for another Olympic cycle, and then he wins silver. So they've performed, and it's because the experience of going to Europeans, going to Commonwealth Games, going to the World Championships. When you have a 4 to 8 year period of that experience, then you learn and you come through and you develop. But it's just so difficult to keep our lads and our girls amateur for them to see that, because they're obviously lured to the professional game. And that's just the way it is in this country, you know, whereas in places like Kazakhstan, Cuba, where the pro game isn't so it's not so flourishing as it is here, they stay amateur for another 4 years, and they go to all them tournaments, and then they perform better. And that's why you see them Uzbeks and then Kazakhs and the Cubans, they perform much better in their second Olympic cycle because of all the experience. But we're getting there. We're trying to educate the boxers as we go along. But yeah, we're delicious. It's just a shame we didn't stay for another 4 years, because I think he would have got better and better.
Just want to get your thoughts on a couple of hot button topics in the professional boxing world. One of them being, you mentioned Galal Yafai. It's now come out that Francisco Rodriguez pop positive for performance-enhancing substances, ordered by the WEC that it was the fight had turned into a no contest, and a rematch to be ordered alongside Francisco Rodriguez to take some rehabilitation courses in terms of learning about drugs and strict liability and drugs being in the system. I just wonder what your thoughts are on about that process, Galal being ordered into a rematch, and the impact of the first fight.
Yeah, it's really disappointing. Obviously, it'll be a no contest now, and you'll still have that magical O, as they say, Galal. But yeah, it's really disappointing because obviously Galal trains up here, so I see him on a weekly basis, and I actually do a lot of pad work with him. Rob likes me to take him on the pad, so I do a lot of work with him. I feel how strong he is, and at his weight, he's probably one of the strongest, if not the strongest fighter at his weight in the world today. Very strong kid, and that's why he was Olympic champion. So then to see him go into a contest like that, and you see straight away as the contest is developing, something's not quite right. You see a guy with Galal's strength being sort of out-muscled and how can I say it? He was beaten by not the better man, a man who's taken drugs and is performing at a higher level. He shouldn't be performing at that level because it wasn't normal. Because I know how strong Galal is. And to see a guy much stronger than him, then that just isn't normal, you know. So we knew straight away. A lot of the coaches, we spoke about it as soon as we came back into camp, of how Rodriguez was performed. We knew straight away that there was something not right. And then for him to develop, you know, he had the test and it's come back in negative, so he's taken drugs. Yeah, it's a terrible situation, you know, and never mind a rematch. You should be banned for a long, long time, because unless we set a precedent of you know, if you take drugs, you've got to be severely punished at the end of the day, because otherwise everyone's going to be taking them, and then it's not going to be fair for boxers who are clean, who are trying to win world titles, you know, and they think they're boxing against clean opponents. You know, you've got to set an example. So yeah, it was very disappointing, really. And Galal, and obviously Galal, I haven't seen Galal since. When he comes back into camp, we've got to pick him up again. Yeah, it's terrible, because at the end of the day, the lad's been cheated, and there's no other words for it. He's been cheated. But we will pick him up, and he will be a genuine world champion, I think, Galal, because of that strength that he's got. And he's very, very determined. And the kid trains so hard, it's unbelievable. So he will get his just rewards, I think, because he trains really, really hard. So yeah, like I say, for me, it's very, very disappointing in what Rodriguez did, and he should be banned for a long time, I think.
You don't think he should entertain the rematch?
No, I don't think he should. I think, you know, at the end of the day, I think if there's a rematch, then, you know, he's got a slap on the wrist, he's got a fine, but he's back in the ring and he's earning money again, and everything's back to normal. That, for me, isn't right.
Last thing, Usyk fought Daniel Dubois for the second time, and it was a even more emphatic victory than the first time around. Just your thoughts on that fight?
Well, I actually thought Daniel had more of a go this time. I thought in the first fight in Poland, you know, he was really in Poland. It's such a big occasion for him, and he lacked that experience. And so in Poland, he probably held back a little bit. This time, I thought I was quite pleased with Dan in the first few rounds. I thought he had a go, but obviously Usyk, we've seen Usyk go to another level. You know, and he gets caught with a really, really good shot. A lot of people are saying he's quit here and there. Listen, he's took a big shot, hasn't he? He's gone down. He's looked at his corner. I was actually looking at his father, who wasn't really eager for him to get up. I don't think anyway. Frank Warren wanted him to get up. You know, he hasn't got up. But yes, it was disappointing really, because I thought he was doing okay, and obviously he's got caught. He actually gave it much more of a sterner effort this time, but he's come up against one of the best fighters in the history of the heavyweight division. You've got to give it to Usyk, undisputed at 2 weights now. He's an incredible boxer. But like I say, I thought Daniel really had to go this time, but it wasn't to be. And I think Daniel, though, is at an age where he will come back. He's only, 27. I still think there's time for him to come back and rebuild and fight for another world title. And I hope he does that, because obviously I've helped him when he came in here on his Olympic cycle as well. Never went to the Olympics, but he was involved in a lot of good spars here with Anthony Joshua, Fraser Clark, Joe Joyce. He learned a lot in here, did Daniel. And he was a pleasure to train. Very quiet lad. So I do hope he rebuilds and comes back.
Was this apparent party a factor in the fight, do you feel?
Yeah, that was very surprising. Someone actually showed me that, and I actually thought, oh, he doesn't look too bad. But they said, no, that was the party before the fight. And I was just gobsmacked. Maybe that's just a lack of experience, not just from him, but his whole family, his whole team. But apparently they'd done it before another fight, the AJ fight. So, and it worked then. So they obviously thought they was thinking about that comfortable environment. But I was just really, really shocked. You're going into one of the biggest fight of your career. You're fighting for the undisputed championship, heavyweight championship of the world. Yeah, to be partying and having people around, people sometimes who don't know, and having to entertain them and smile and this, that, and the other. Then for me, I was very, very shocked. And no, for me, and obviously it's turned out now, he shouldn't have been doing that. And yet it worked in that one against AJ. So, I don't think they'll be doing it again.
Very lastly, Oleksandr Usyk says he's got maybe 1 or 2 fights left, if that. Tyson Fury is already confirmed in for a 3rd slice at him. Joe Parker wants an opportunity. Moses Atalma is someone who's been talked about as an opportunity. Do you see any of these guys having a shot at beating Oleksandr Usyk? I
think Moses Atalma is probably the one who's got the most talent amongst the ones you've mentioned there. Although Tyson Fury, I think, is probably the one, for me, is the one that possibly could beat Usyk. I think Moses Atalma and Usyk are going to miss each other, aren't they? I think Moses Atalma will probably have maybe 1, maybe 2 more fights before he'd be ready for Usyk. And then Usyk, who knows, will probably have 1 or a couple and probably retire. He might retire after his next one. If there's a boxer out there that can beat Alexander Usyk, I think it's Tyson Fury. I think he was desperately unlucky in the 2 fights that he had with him. They were close fights. I actually thought he nicked the 2nd fight against Usyk. So I think if there's anyone out there that could do it, it'd be probably him. I think Alexander Usyk having 13 world title fights and not 1 in Ukraine is a tragedy, really. And I really think that hopefully, I know what's going on over there, but if one day, I think it would be his dream to fight in Ukraine, and maybe that would be the last fight for him in Ukraine, in a world title fight in front of his own people. I think that's the dream for Alexander Usyk, I should imagine. But as regards to opponents, yeah, AJ always in with a puncher's chance, I think. But Tyson Fury, for me, of all of them, I think more realistically, because of his size and the way he boxes, he's in with a realistic chance of getting the victory.
Richie, appreciate your time, you gentlemen. Wish you all the best for the Worlds and your talents.
Cheers, thank you.